Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something. I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this edition of Next on the Tee, where your golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and as always, I really appreciate the fact that you make Next on the Tee a part of your weekly golf content and you press play on this episode. This time around, it is like old home week for me for a few big reasons. First, both of my guests have been a very big part of this show since the first season. They've also joined me at least 20 times apiece over the years, and they are both from Pittsburgh. So who am I talking about? Well, first up is Golf Magazine Top 100 instructor Eric Johnson. He has been on that list every year since 2011. I kind of wish it had been every year since 2013 so I could take full credit for it. As it stands, I take credit for keeping him on that list every year since. Eric spent 17 years as the director of instruction at Oakmont, followed by being at Nemacolin Resort, most recently Yellowstone Country Club, and the membership list there is among the tops anywhere in the world, and you're going to hear a little bit about that. He just recently accepted the director of instruction job at Baltusrol. So that lets you know everything you need to know about how great Eric is. I mean, look, you don't get to be at some of the most prestigious country clubs in the world without being an outstanding person and an outstanding director of instruction, and that is exactly who Eric Johnson is. You're going to get to hear some stories about his first couple of weeks getting to walk the grounds there at Baltusrol. I also get his thoughts on last year's U.S. Open, again back at his old home course at Oakmont. He also weighs in on Tiger's latest issues. We give a shout-out of sorts, if you will, to a couple of great friends of ours, Robert Morris head coach Steve Shingledecker, followed by Eric's head coach, who's a great individual head coach and a person as well, and that is Tim McCord. So listen for that shout-out. Plus, I get E's picks for the Masters this week as well. Following him, another, like I say, longtime friend and a guy who means a great deal to me as well, Bob Friend Jr. is back as part of the show. People talk about Bob as one of the all-time great grinders out on the PGA and Champions Tours. You'll hear a bit about that from Eric in the first segment and also during my conversation with Bob. But what I give Bob a world of credit for is his work ethic. Some of the top players that might have had a little more talent than he did, but nobody, and I mean nobody, outworked Bob. You're going to hear him talk a little bit about that. Look, he says if people showed up, if the great players were showing up out on the practice range at 6 a.m., he showed up at 5. If they hit balls for 4 hours, he hit them for 5. That's who Bob Friend is. He was determined to get everything out of the ability that he has, and I admire the heck out of that about him. He is a member there at Oakmont, so I get his thoughts on the U.S. Open as well, plus what it's like to put a peg in the ground there for all of us that'll never know what that's like. Bob lets us live a little vicariously through him. You'll hear stories about a recent tournament there where their infamous greens were rolling an unbelievable 18 on the stimp. Bob was one of the few players also to ever qualify to play in a U.S. Open on his home course, and he did so at the 1994 U.S. Open, which was also Mr. Palmer's last U.S. Open appearance. Bob tells us what it was like to be on the grounds for that final round for Mr. Palmer there on that Friday. He also shares a great Jim Colbert story about Jack Nicklaus, plus how important it is to have belief in yourself out on the course, plus we get a fundamental tip that can help us all play a little bit better immediately. So, folks, I've got another great show in store for you, full of amazing stories, some great tips as well. And like I say at the top, and I just appreciate so much about each and every one of you, a large dose of vitamin G for you here for pressing play and taking the journey with me over the next 90 minutes or so. One last thing before we get started, if you would please do me a huge favor, wherever you're listening to this right now, if you would take just a couple of seconds and subscribe to the show, it would go a long way towards getting Next on the Tee in front of more wonderful golf enthusiasts just like you. I appreciate you. Okay, you know I like to get things started shouting out the wonderful people that help to sponsor this show, starting with my great friends over at the Trib. TribLive.com is the leading news website in Western Pennsylvania, with news around the clock, Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, and a podcast network, which is where you can find Next on the Tee. Bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trib Live app for free and stay up to date with the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. And because it's never too early for chocolate, their double chocolate Bock is back for the season, and it's the perfect companion for a cozy winter evening. Check out all of their wonderful beers and their gift shop by going online to pittsburghbrewing.com. In golf, fast isn't a nice to have, fast is a necessity, and speed off the tee is where it all starts. That was precisely the thinking behind the all-new QI4D family of drivers from TaylorMade, our fastest, most fittable drivers. Built to meet the demands of the world's best players like Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Nelly Korda, and the rest of Team TaylorMade. The QI4D lineup was engineered to unlock the 4 dimensions of speed, starting with a multi-material driver head with enhanced aerodynamic shaping, combined with a faster face and our revolutionary React shaft system. The TaylorMade QI4D drivers are ready to extract every bit of speed from every golfer's unique swing profile. Our industry-leading adjustability and fitting unlocks it all. Watch the full story of QI4D, our quest to build the fastest, most fittable drivers, and unlock your newfound speed at TaylorMadeGolf.com/findingfast. Now back and next on the tee with me is one of Golf Magazine's perennial top 100 instructors and one of my all-time favorite people on the planet, and that's Eric Johnson. Eric has been a great friend of the show going all the way back to season number 1. No one makes this segment more fun or one that I look forward to more than Eric does. Let me remind you about his background. He's from my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Played his college golf and was a 4-year letterman at Mississippi State from 1992 to 1995. He helped them win back-to-back Kroger intercollegiate titles in 1994 and 95. Early in his career, Eric played out on the Canadian Tour, the Sunshine Tour, and the Golden Bear Tour. Like I mentioned, Golf Magazine has named Eric a top 100 instructor every year since 2011. He was also recognized by Golf Digest as a top 40 under 40 teacher. In 2023, Eric was named Teacher and Coach of the Year by the Rocky Mountain section of the PGA of America. He is also a 3-time Tri-State PGA Teacher of the Year, a 4-time Horton Smith Award winner for his contributions to education. He was the Director of Instruction out at Oakmont Country Club for over 17 years. He spent the last few years out at Yellowstone Country Club in Big Sky, Montana, and he has recently been named the Director of Instruction at Baltusrol, which I can't wait to hear more about. And I'm honored to have him back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, E, how are you, my friend?
Chris, I am so good. I got a lot to live up to after that intro. I'm not sure I can handle this. This is pressure.
You've been dealing with pressure your whole life. I know you're up for it.
Yes, I have been. Thank you.
All right, so we got to get right into it. Director of Instruction at Baltusrol. What an amazing and historic place to get an opportunity to be the DOI. Tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, it's a funny story, Chris. I don't know if you remember Patrick Kane, who used to work for me at Nemacolin. He called me in November and said, "What do you think about this Baltusrol job?" And I said, "Patrick, you'd be an idiot not to look at this job. I mean, it's historic. It's got everything. 18 holes, 17 miles outside of New York City. It's a volume. It's a golf mecca. It is a golf club. There's no tennis. There's no rackets. There's no shooting. There's no pool. There's golf. 2 golf courses and a big range. And so, as you know, in jobs, I mean, I got a call from a career consultant in February, and they said, "Hey, we just haven't found what we're looking for yet, and would you take a look at this job? We kind of keep hearing your name." I said, "Well, sure. I'm not looking for a job, but I'd love to look at it." And I looked at it, and I said, "Oh my God, this is everything I did at Oakmont." And there's 2 golf courses, and it's certainly my wife would feel more comfortable in Springfield or Summit, New Jersey, than she does in Big Sky. So at the end of the day, it was a very easy choice, and I am so delighted to be here. I've been here like 2 weeks now, and I'm really starting to settle in, and it's been amazing. The staff is terrific. What a place! I mean, historic. I mean, it's just like Oakmont. 2 top 100 golf courses, a big. You should see this teaching building and the performance center, excuse me, and we're going to make it better, and we're going to add on. We're going to do other things. It's going to be, we have a putt view downstairs. We've got a sand putt lab. We've got all this technology. We have TrackMan in every bay. We have Swing Catalyst in the teaching bays. We have TrackMan in the members bays with the video recording where you can look at your swing. I mean, you talk about a technology filled environment. This is it. This is really some sort of golf environment.
Like you've mentioned, there's a rich history there. It's hosted 12 majors across the PGA and the LPGA tours, plus 8 more U.S. amateurs. There's a upper and lower course. It dates back to 1895. It's a Tillinghast design. Let us live a little vicariously through you, E. What's it like when you walk into that clubhouse and then out onto the golf course?
Well, it is so funny. You walk into the clubhouse and it just oozes history. Everywhere you look, it's just like Oakmont when you walk down towards the phones room and there's all the historical, data and prints and pictures, and it's everywhere in the clubhouse. It is in every room of this clubhouse. And then you walk outside, and when you get up by hole, 3 and 4, on the upper, you're literally looking at the city, and you see the sky. You see the city, skyline, and it's only 17 miles away, and you go, "Oh my goodness gracious, we are so close to, downtown New York City." It's hard to fathom that you could have 2 golf courses in this environment and so close to the city, and it hasn't been gobbled up somehow. They haven't made mistakes, and the Tillinghast is one of my favorite designers. I mean, even when he played Newcastle up up by where we're from, I mean, what a wonderful golf course. I mean, just was a real genius. And they've done some small, redesigns, so to speak, and fixing them up a little bit, but it still has that Tillinghast look. It's spectacular.
We are both huge fans of Mr. Nicklaus, and you were at Oakmont where he won his first major in 62, and now you're at a place where he won 2 more U.S. Opens in 67 and 1980. Have you visited the plaque on the 18th hole on the lower course where you hit that iconic 1-iron shot in 67 to break the U.S. Open scoring record?
You have to. I mean, I went up and knocked on it like Mickelson, I mean, we're all like, we all think about that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's, I got to meet Jack in 94 at Oakmont. And, it was so funny because it was Jimmy Ford and I, which is Bob's nephew, and we had been working in the merchandise tent. We looked like bums. I mean, we were in like shorts. We were filthy, covered in like, forklift dust and dust from all this merchandise. And there's Arnold on a Saturday, and he was waiting for Jack. And so we stood there, and we were watching him, and Arnold turns around and he walks over and he comes over and shakes our hand. We're like, "Mr. Palmer, we're filthy. Do you really want to do this?" He's like, "How you doing, man?" He gave you that shake, and it was so amazing. he goes, I'm waiting for Jack, and he's running late, like always. And we're like, okay, Mr. Robert. You're like, all right, what the heck are you doing talking to us? We looked like complete bums. And he was so gracious. And then Jack showed up. He goes, hey, boys, how you doing? And shook hands. And to see, we'll say 2/3 of the big three. And I love, Gary Player, but, being a hometown kid, you got Arnold, and then you got Jack that won in '62. That was that was hard to beat, I gotta admit. And then to see to see him shoot 63 in 1980, when some were kind of saying he was over and not over, but and then shoot 272 here in 1980 and win was just it's incredible. I've always been a huge fan of Jack's winning. Listen, we all love winners. Well, I think we all do. I mean, I certainly do. I love to watch dominance. I love to watch Tiger, and we might talk about him in a minute. But he loved watching the guy that knew he was going to beat everybody else, and kind of Arnie and Jack kind of both had that. And and I mean, you could say, Tiger kind of destroyed Ernie and some of the other guys. I mean, he was just they knew they couldn't beat him. I mean, you win 2 majors by 27 shots, you're doing something well, and that's pretty remarkable stuff. And I really loved Mr. Palmer and got to know him more in the end, but I was a huge fan of the way Jack won. I mean, it was dominant, and it was fun to watch. And then to see him in 86, and as you know, Jim Flick was a huge mentor of mine, to win the Masters. And I finally said, all right, coach, you crossed the old German. Tell me some stories about Nicholas. He said, whether it's true or not, just is Jim making it up. But he said, Jack never crossed the line. He said he crossed the line twice in 72 holes, which means if he's fading the ball always ended up on the left side of the pin, unless, of course, he was trying to, on 11, let's say it's tucked over in the corner, he's not going to cut it over the water on 11 at Augusta. He's going to hit it at the pin, and he's going to fade it to the middle. And he said he crossed the line twice in 72 holes, which, you think about that, it's remarkable. I can tell you every shot. I'm not going to bore you with it, but 10, he was below it. 11, he was to the right of it. 12, he was to the left of it. 13, he was left of it. I said I wouldn't bore you, but he stopped it on 14, and 15, he was just below the hole, putting up the hill. I mean, 16, he stopped it in there, a foot or two, and 17, he was just left, and 18, he had it right on the hole. I mean, it was a phenomenal ball striking event. And when you go back in history and you look at it, I believe Jim. I believe he didn't cross the line but twice.
That would be simply amazing, to go through a career and only cross the line 2 times.
In 72 holes, can you imagine that? I mean,
no.
I can't even, I cross the line every shot anymore. I don't know where the heck the thing's going.
You've had some other brushes with major champions and huge celebrities. You played in a tournament not that long ago with Sir Nick Faldo. You've teed it up with President Bush. You got to be a part of the team that hosted those U.S. Opens at Oakmont while you were there. What are some of your favorite memories, some of the favorite things that you've gotten to be a part of in our game?
Well, I did play with Sir Nick in our Caddyshack Invitational, and that was amazing 2 years ago. I mean, it was so amazing. He stripes it to this day, and Nick was one of my favorites, like, of all times. I wanted to be the precision Nick Faldo. And I told him, I said, you're my favorite, you and Seve. And he goes, well, we're 2 totally different people. I said, yeah, I know, but you're two my favorites, and you hit it great, and he hit it sideways and got it up and down everywhere. I mean, you never could count Seve out. And, watching him at Oakmont was amazing. Seeing Mr. Palmer and getting to know him a little bit at the end of my career, and, taught his grandson Will, and that was amazing. But, I mean, a quick one about Sir Nick. It was so funny. We were walking down the first hole, and I said, so, Sir Nick, protocol question. After we've exchanged pleasantries, do we is it just then Nick, or is it Sir Nick all day? And he kind of did this thing like with a sword. He's like, the Queen knighted me, so it's Sir Nick all day. And we're like, oh, okay, right, indeed, yes, indeed. We're like, what are you talking about? We're gonna call you Nick, But and then Drew Glover, our head director of golf, drove by and he goes, hey Nick. He goes, hey Drew. And I'm like, wait a minute, why is he? Why? But Nick was awesome to play with. There's so many great. Phil Mickelson walks in. Hey, Phil Mickelson. Hey, I'm Jack Nicklaus. Good to see you. We know who you are, but Phil, it was awesome. We Travis Kelce and Taylor bought a ranch out at YC, and he was, he's just a wonderful guy. You kind of
think that right?
Yeah. You kind of think he's like that. Hey, we're gonna fight to a right to party, but then you meet him and you're like, he's not at all like that. He's just a really good guy. He's so down to earth. I'm like, hey, Travis, say hi to this guy. Hey, this is Peter Cowie, Mike Michelson, two of our best. Hey guys, what's this logo? He was delightful. She kind of was over there in the cart, and kind of, I would say a little to herself, and that's fine too. That's her place to get away from the crowd. So, but he was a wonderful guy. Justin Timberlake was, amazing, to teach, and unfortunately went through a little kind of a similar thing with Tiger there, but doesn't mean he's not a good guy, and we all make mistakes. But we have to pay for them, and we have to do better. And Tom Brady was so nice. They're like, I'm like, hey guys, Tom, my kids were out, and they're like, Tom's on the range. Don't be a goober. Don't, like, don't get, hey, Mr. Brady, like, just. And he walks by, hey fellas, how you doing? Hey, Mr. Brady. They're all like, what in the heck? That's Tom Brady. Yep, he's got a lot of hardware on his fingers. A lot of rings there, but. So the game's been so good. All of us, we can all say the same thing. If you've been around the Oakmonts, the Shinnecocks, the Baltusrols, the Augustas, got to play Augusta. One of the coolest things, one of the dumbest things I ever did was ask if they had grits for breakfast. And,
how did that come up?
Grab the words, they were already out. And this guy's like, of course we have. What kind of southern place do you think this is? I said, I didn't mean it. I'm from Pittsburgh. I asked everywhere. I'm sorry. My host was just like laughing uncontrollably. But you get to the Loch Lomans, and I talked to Mr. Weiskopf before he passed, and I said, Loch Lomond is one of my favorites. We used to have the Oakmont versus Loch Lomond Cup matches, and I took the team over, and I said, Mr. Weiskopf, I think it's the best experience in golf. He goes, nature did that. And I said, I don't know. I think Jack would have bulldozed it into submission. And he got a belly laugh like you would have never thought he ever told a joke. It was awesome. So, it was just, yeah. Sorry, I walked down memory lane there a little bit.
That's awesome. I love that. And we'll be right back. You guys know what a fan I am of On Point Golf. Folks, get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only three-dimensional ball marker with alignment technology and a removable coin. It is approved for use according to the rules of golf as defined by the USGA and the R&A. As we all know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your three-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and lower your scores. Folks, with the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals and amateurs alike out there using them now, it's the #1 ball marker in golf that actually helps you lower your scores. Go online to onpointgolf.us, read about the science behind it, then put one in your bag and make more putts. I feel like it's the 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let On Point help yours as well? Again, onpointgolf.us. Check them out and get one in your bag today.
PGA Tour Superstore pros aren't born. They're made. Every January, hundreds of associates talk to the top manufacturers, learn about the latest clubs, test the newest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls. all so they can get you the perfect fit.
Now let's get back to the show. We haven't talked specifically about Oakmont, but we got to spend some time together last year during U.S. Open week at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company. What'd you think about the Open and how Oakmont played that week?
Yeah.
Not last year during the tournament, but what'd you think about how the course played?
Yeah, it's, I mean, the rough was ridiculous as always. And if the greens were firm and fast, 8 over would have won. And so it saved them. I was a little bit concerned with the Sam Burns thing and the no drop on 12. I mean, I know that this was wet. It was not the right call. And maybe they tried to just get it finished. I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you. I thought they quick called the after the rain delay just a little bit. But listen, I mean, I was on my way to Montana and I watched the review, the replays, and I thought that was an awful decision by that referee, rules official. When you have rain like that, the player knows, and you saw how much water spouted out. I mean, to think that JJ Spawn made that putt, no, I guarantee you, I think it was Terrell Hatton and was it Rob McIntyre that were in second?
Right.
And I guarantee you, they're like, we're in a playoff, baby. There's no way he's two-putting this. I mean, I've been there, I was there 17 years in my career, and no one, he can't. And he makes it. You go, oh my God, what just happened here? So I was happy for Adam Shriver as coach. I mean, heck of a win for those guys and the work they're doing. And, I think maybe history would have loved an Adam Scott. Maybe they would have loved a Tiger Woods instead of an Angel Cabrera. But, that's why they play the championships. And I think Angel was, went out to win the Masters and had his problems and paid his debt to society, and now he's back playing and winning on the Champions Tour. So God bless him. We all need some hope, and hopefully, I know you probably saw Tiger checking into rehab. It just went off the wire here. He is definitely going to seek some help, and good. We all need hope, even Tiger Woods.
Let's take that a step further, E. Because when you step back and look at the situation for Tiger's latest transgression, I'm really struggling with this one. I have a lot of empathy for those that get, unfortunately, hooked onto painkillers. I can see how it can happen. I certainly understand and empathize with his situation. Where I struggle with it is his decisions to get behind the wheel of a car. And I really hope that the way this thing all plays out through the court case is they take his driver's license and run it through a shredder. No reason for him to be getting behind the wheel of an automobile or anything else at this point. Get a driver. And as we see, I mean, he's very lucky he hasn't killed himself or anybody else to this point. And I worry if he were to get behind the wheel that it's headed down that path. And I certainly don't want anyone's child. I don't want anybody's family, friends, father, mother, anybody to end up at the wrong end of a Tiger Woods flipped automobile next time around. What are your thoughts about his most recent transgression?
Well, I mean, there's outrage and there's compassion. As a father, I don't want anyone killing my kids because they were on, what was he on? Hydrocodone.
That's what they found in his pocket, yeah.
He had two. Now, I looked this up. I said, what is this stuff? And then, it's an opioid that you take once every 12 hours. Now, he had two pills in his pocket. I don't know where he's going. Now, I also can't tell you what it's like to have over 20 surgeries and still want to, you're a legend in the game. So I understand that. But, holy cow. For Tiger not to have a driver and hire three, and he said this, hire the, morning shift, afternoon shift, night shift. I don't care. I don't care if they sit there, Tiger. You have enough money to do anything you want in the world. And if you say you want privacy, then you know how in a limousine they put the little divider up, and you can't see the guy and you can't hear him, and he can't hear you. So, and then there's also a thing called a non-disclosure factor. You just sign a thing and it said you can't talk about what I'm doing, and so it's very easy to remedy that situation. So I'm kind of disgusted that he's still driving. We saw him. It was 2017.
Right.
He had he fell asleep. They had 5 different things in his system. All that stuff is like. But he finally came out today, just an hour or so ago, and said, "Hey, I need treatment. I need help." And so don't ever let him drive again. And don't. But as a father and a parent, I don't want someone running into my kid. And I don't care if you won, 15 majors. I don't want you killing anybody or yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of disgusted, and I'm kind of like, all right, maybe And again, I said it like even Tiger Woods needs hope. Gary Woodland, look at the Gary Woodland. Yeah, I'm battling PTSD, right? And then he wins, and you go, everybody needs some hope, and if you stay the course, look at Lucas Glover. Went through some crazy yips and changed his thought process, and met with some Navy SEALs and got his mind to think like, well, you're just a little injured. You're not. You're good, And then he comes through and wins, and you go, holy cow! I mean, everybody needs hope, and everybody needs some forgiveness. It's a little tough love, maybe, because this is like you crashed the car in Genesis, there's like 21 or whatever, and almost lost the leg. Probably should have. This is like a repeat thing. So let's hope that, and again, I don't know what pain the guy's living in. I don't know what living through. I'm sore, and I haven't had any surgeries, right? And my body hurts every day. There's a new pain every day, and I don't know where it's coming from, but it seems to pop up. But so I don't know what he's living through, but you got to get it together a little bit. There, you're a cultural icon. You're one of the best ever, and don't disrupt your legacy like this. That would be my take, I guess, Chris.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Eric. I mean, we all need grace, and we all need some help, and we all are going
Right.
through things that nobody else knows about. So,
Right.
and goodness knows we know all about the however many surgeries it's been that he's had on his Achilles and his leg and his back and all those sorts of things. So we've all gone through that and seen him, and goodness knows, to your point, Eric, how much pain he is in on a daily, hourly basis. I'm sure it's a lot. And I
I'm
know
sure
he's
it's
got
fun.
a huge desire to be able to continue to play and to do the things that he has done. And, Father Time is undefeated, right? And I know
It's
he
undefeated, Chris.
people want to talk about how he really wants to win the U.S. Senior Open to kind of complete the whole career. I don't know what you call the USGA, win all the championships that the USGA has to offer for him and all of that sort of thing. But to your point, this isn't just about you. You aren't
Right.
just going through a destructive period in your own life where you are just hurting you. Goodness knows he could have killed somebody in 2021 when he was doing twice the speed limit down that hill in California and crashed into a tree. And like you said, nearly lost his leg and could have killed himself. He
Right.
could have, how bad this could have turned out if there was a car coming down that Jupiter Road in the opposite direction. Who knows what conversation we're having right now about somebody else and about him. So this is all about, to your point about not wanting him driving anywhere near where your kids are driving. This is about not endangering other people. And he is making really bad choices, really bad decisions when he grabs those keys and turns the car on and pulls out of the driveway. To me, that's where I sort of draw the line. Look, you were a magician and a legend and one of the greatest players ever and did so much for our game for 2 decades.
Yep.
But now we're talking about the safety of others. And to me, this isn't just about you and your pain. This is about you caring about the safety of other people when you are making the decision to put those keys in the car and put that car in drive and now leave your neighborhood and wherever you're going. And that to me is something that I have a hard time with. I have empathy for him and everything he's had to go through in his life, and maybe some things and some decisions that he didn't want to make, didn't want to have, and didn't want to do, but for whatever reason, owed it to the game, owed it to sponsors, owed it to whoever. He made those decisions, and boy, it's to me a third time. Right, this is 3 strikes and you're out. I hope that not only do they not give him back his license, I hope they put it through a shredder and he never gets one again. And to your point, Mr. Woods, I feel very certain you can afford to have round-the-clock drivers.
You know, on the separate point, I'm just so happy that my kids don't live on Jupiter Island in a $100 million home. I'm just so happy that, their dad has to schlep it out 1 hour, every day on a tee. No, I'm kidding, but yeah, I mean, for goodness sakes, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'm
a couple more before I let you go. And we've talked a little bit about the Masters. We have it coming up here in a little over a week. Looking ahead to this year's tournament, if I gave you a foursome to pick that'll be battling it out late into Sunday afternoon, early evening, who would you go with?
Wow, what a question. I mean, Scotty's kind of like, I dare I say he's battling the first round demons. Now, please don't, but it might be true. I don't know what the heck's going on. I did hear it was a funny story. I heard a guy, Chris Gotterop's coach, and he said, Scotty's saying he's got this little air pocket in his grip, and he feels like that's the reason that he can't, not playing well. And I said, wait a second, air pocket under your grip? What are you talking about? Like, I'd have to really start thinking about that. Like, an air pocket under your left hand, and that's why you're not playing well. I don't know about that. But so Scotty's kind of a puzzle. Rory's, continues to make crazy numbers. Like, he looks like he's unstoppable, and then makes a triple and hits it all over the place. Morikawa was off to a great run, and now he's hurt his back. Justin Thomas, back surgery. Spieth, we don't know. I would say a Tommy Fleetwood. I would say a Chris Gotterop, even though I don't know if he hits it high enough. He hits it so darn far that when you hit it really far like that, and then you don't have anything in your way on the second shot, that's a good thing. You can take some bunter that hits at 275 and hits every fairway. He's not winning. They're not winning there. So I'd look for, like, if you don't think Bryson DeChambeau is going to be pumped up for this one, I mean, he might eat the trophy. Like, if he might just like start off and just eat the trophy and say, "Now let's go." I won. I don't know. I mean, his transformation has been remarkable. Kind of like, I saw him. I told you that story in 16. We were warming up next to him, and TrackMan, flight scopes, force plates, all this stuff going on. You're going into a major. We had some string and 2 tees, and he looked at us like we're hillbillies, and we probably were. But when you're going into a major, your mind has to be thinking about hitting shots. I mean, Bobby Friend can tell you about that. I mean, my man probably had more guts and determination than maybe anyone that's ever been on that tour, on both tours, and I commend him for that. He was a mentally tough human being, and so this one's, I really don't know. I think Bryson DeChambeau. If I had to pick one right now, I'd go Bryson. I mean, what he did.
Okay.
Yeah, what he did. I know people say, "Oh, he can't chip." He can chip. and he hits it so far. My guess is Bryson DeChambeau. That's who I'm picking.
All right.
You heard it here first. Put
Indeed.
$10 on that one.
You got him. I want to get a playing lesson from you before I let you go. For our listeners who may be listening to this show on their way to the golf course or the driving range, what's a tip that you can share that they can take with them that could save them a stroke or two today?
Well, our friend Tim McCord's listening somewhere. Tim down in Pinehurst, I want to say, hey, I love you. He was the reason that I'm here, and we've talked about that in segments before, but he was a hell of a coach. And but I would say, everybody likes to practice their strengths. And one of my favorite lines from Butch Harmon, when he was teaching Tiger in 2000. Tiger was statistically leading in 8 categories. And they said, hey, Butch, what are you going to work on with Tiger this year? And he said, anything he's not number 1 in the world at, which was like, whoa, what an answer. Like, practice your weaknesses. If you're a poor chipper or pitcher or bunker player, practice that. Don't go run. If you're a great driver of the ball, don't go out there and hit drivers all day long. Go find your weakness, kind of analyze. Most people pretty bad at long lag putting. Learn how to lag putt, get it up there close, stress-free putting, tap it in, but find your weakness. Most guys are a little bit inflexible. And I don't want general terms, but ladies are kind of hyper flexible, men are kind of stiff, and men are generally a little stronger with the stiffness, and ladies don't have quite as much strength. That's not saying that there's a bunch of women that can't kick my butt. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in a general purpose, like if we look at body types, that's what happens. It's just the fact. And but practice your weakness. Don't practice your strength. If you're not a good bunker player, go in the bunker and figure it out. If you don't know how to pitch it, watch some of the stuff on I'd stay away from YouTube, but EricJohnsonGolf.com's got some really good stuff on pitching. No, I'm kidding.
It does. When was the last time you updated your website? I think it was during the Bush administration,
I did that a
wasn't
while
it?
ago. Now, come on, I even posted something on Facebook. I posted this on LinkedIn.
You did not.
I did.
Get out of here.
Shocked you didn't hear about Baltusrol. Oh, I love you, man. You're the best.
Hey, one more before I let you go. Our good friend Steve Shingledecker, he says you weren't much of an athlete in high school and wanted me to ask you how you got into Mississippi State.
Well, that piece of garbage hasn't won a thing. And you know what? If I hadn't made a bunch of lies up about that kid, he still wouldn't be that, coach. That was the luckiest thing. I lied to that AD more than I even actually said some prayers to God after that. I said, God, I know that was a lot of lies, but I promise you it's for a good kid. And you could just remind him of when he lost the district championship. They lost by a zillion because poor Micah Polka had the shanks, and my brother was the hero. Like, I was a freshman, I shoot 74 at Sleepy Hollow, good round. I went eagle birdie. Tim McCord went crazy because I pulled my driver out on the first hole and I drove it. He was like, "You got to hit 5-iron and sandwich." I'm like, "No, coach, I'm going to hit it on the green. I'm going to make the putt," and I did it. And he was so mad at me. He said, I took off the head cover and he just pulled it away. He was so mad that but poor Micah Polka had the shanks, and my brother shot like 85, and then he was the hero in the paper, the Titusville Herald, which I don't know about that. I shot 74 as a freshman. My brother 85 as a senior. So I hope he's that piece of garbage listening too.
All right, before I let you go, let our listeners know about this wonderful update to your website and how they can follow you online and on social media.
Well, God, now I gotta redo it because it says, Yellowstone Club. But I'll redo it. I got a lot of stuff to do. But Eric Johnson Golf and Golf Magazine and Eric Johnson Golf on Facebook and LinkedIn, same thing, Eric Johnson Golf. And this LinkedIn thing's crazy. I got 5,000 plus people now. I was like, wow, the world is really connecting. It's unbelievable to see it. But you know, Baltusrol it's an awesome place. And Chris, you got to come see me now. I'm putting it out there right now.
I tell you, I mean, I'm trying to get back, from this multiple ankle replacement surgeries, but with an invitation to go up to Baltusrol, I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll get Tiger to help me out, get rid of some of this pain.
Yeah, he's got some pills laying around. Oh, that was terrible. But our boy Cliff Forrest, we got to get our boy. If that piece of garbage is listening, he's got to be on your show, because Iron City, like, it's legend. I came here and I'm like, the section director's like, I saw you, Iron City. I'm like, yeah, Cliff's a good friend of mine, and we play golf on Tuesdays. He goes, my dad loves that. I said, I'll get you some beer. Don't worry.
I'd love to get Cliff. I've been dying to get Cliff on the show for years. I can't make it happen.
Piece of garbage. Everyone's a piece of garbage tonight.
You're the best, my friend. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of this show. You're one of my all-time favorites. You know that. I love you. I hope we get this chance with you again soon.
Love you too. Hey, listen, tell Button, best friend, I send my best. His mom is the sweetheart of all sweethearts.
I will absolutely do that. Take care, E. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Chris. Love you.
See you, man. That is the great Eric Johnson, folks. They just don't come better than that guy. One of the all-time favorites on this show. Again, he's a guy that goes all the way back to season number 1. And so does my next guest, Bob Friend Jr., by the way. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But two guys that have meant everything to me and to this show. I give them both a huge amount of credit. Way back, again, 13 years ago, for coming on a show that they never heard of with a guy they never heard of. And they've both become wonderful friends and mentors of mine and people that I absolutely look forward to. This show typically gets booked a few weeks in advance. And when I know they're coming up, I just get excited the closer we get. And Eric has been, like I say, just instrumental in so many ways to the game of golf. A wonderful teacher, a wonderful guy that's, you don't win the Horton Smith Award 4 times for your dedication to education on accident. That's how much he cares about his students and pushing this game and instruction further. And you don't become a guy who is in the top 100 for every year since 2011, right? So that doesn't happen by accident either. That's just how great an instructor and how great a human being Eric Johnson is. I'm so grateful to him, and hopefully we get this privilege of having him back on the show again real soon. Coming up next is a guy who was not going to be outworked by anybody out on the PGA Tour or the Champions Tour, and is also a Western Pennsylvania golf legend, and that is Bob Friend Jr. Before Bob joins the show, let me remind you about the great things going on up at Macklemore, because this year, get ready to experience a game like never before at the Keep, the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course at Macklemore. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round here is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore. The Keep is open and it's waiting for you. And folks, if you haven't tried 2 Under yet, you really need to. Why? Well, from the first tee to the clubhouse, 2 Under's Joey Pouch is going to keep you comfortable and locked in all round or all day. Build your own bundle by going online to 2 Under, that's the number 2, UNDR.com, and save up to 20%. Okay, now back, and I'm honored to say this, for the 22nd time is another one of my all-time favorite people, let alone guests on this show. Like we were just talking about in the last segment, Bob Friend Jr. is back with me. And like Eric, Bob has been a wonderful part of this show since joining me for the first time all the way back on Season 1, Episode number 3. That's how long he has been a part of this show. 13 years going back to only the 3rd episode when we first got started. I always give him a ton of credit, like I said just a moment ago, for being a guy willing to join a show that he never heard of with a guy he never heard of, like I say, back in 2013. And this is kind of old home week when you look at it, because Bob is also from my hometown of Pittsburgh. He played his college golf like Eric in the SEC, but over at LSU, where he helped them win the 1986 SEC championship. Over the course of his college career, he had 11 career top 10 finishes. He won the Western Pennsylvania Amateur Championship in 1984 and 85 and the Pennsylvania State Championship in 85 as well. He turned pro in 1987, Played out on the Korn Ferry Tour, the PGA Tour, and the Champions Tour. He had 5 top 10 finishes his rookie year on the Korn Ferry Tour. Got his first win at the 1991 Fort Wayne Open. In 1998, Bob won the Panama Open and finished second in the Canadian Open. Over the course of his pro career, he finished in the top 10 27 times. In 2003, Bob's high school, Fox Chapel, inducted him into their Hall of Fame. Baseball fans will remember his father, Bob Friend Sr., who pitched in the major leagues from 1951 to 1966 and helped the Pirates win the 1960 World Series over the New York Yankees. And I am very privileged that I get to spend some more time with him this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Bob, how are you, my friend?
Chris, I'm doing great. Your introduction gets better every year. What do they say? The older I get, the better I used to be.
But you were always great, my friend.
Well, I don't know about that. I know I listen to Eric. I know that I worked hard, and I know that anything you want in life, if it's worth it, you got to work for it.
Well, you worked really hard on your game. Eric did point that out in the first segment, but I don't think anybody grinded harder than you did during your time, whether it was when you were a junior player, when you were playing in high school, college, or certainly when you got out on tour.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, that came from my dad. His nickname was the Warrior. And, it's just one of those things. I mean, the good Lord gives each of us a certain amount of talent, and it's up to you what you're going to do with it. So for me, I mean, you might have more talent than me, but I could work harder than you. So if you got to the rock pile at 7, I'd get there at 6. If you got there at 6, I'd get there at 5. And I couldn't be outworked. And that's just part of my makeup. That's how I've always been. But I think it's with good parents and instilling a good work ethic. And I know that my dad pitched 15 years without missing a start, and 3,611 innings over a 16-year career. So just how I was brought up. Very blessed with great parents.
So let's take that a step further, Bob. For our younger listeners who don't know who 19 was, talk more about what your father was able to do with his career, and then, post as a great father to you and your family.
Well, he grew up in the state of Indiana, and grew up in West Lafayette, about a block away from Purdue University. He was the youngest of 8, total of 7 brothers, 7 brothers and sisters. His dad died when he was 15, and he was a great athlete, obviously, and he was actually recruited by every school in the Big Ten for football. But he loved baseball, and in 1949, he met with Branch Rickey and the Pirates, and they liked what he had. He actually struck out. He played in I guess you would call it a Legion Ball All-Star game, and he struck out 27 of 27 batters.
Wow!
And that kind of got the attention of Major League scouts. But Branch Rickey took a liking to him, and ended up coming to Pittsburgh when Branch Rickey left the Dodgers. Pitched 1 year in the minor leagues in Waco, Texas, Big State League, and then from 51 through 65, pitched with Pittsburgh, and then 66 he pitched with the Mets and the Yankees, and retired at the end of 66. But he was known for, he's the all-time leader in Pittsburgh Pirate history in strikeouts, most complete games, most wins, most losses. Played in some terrible teams in the 50s. He is the first player in Major League history in 1955 to lead the league in ERA and have the team finished in last place. Finished third in the Cy Young in 1958 when he went 22-14. I remember talking with Jack Nicklaus, just playing a casual round of golf with Jack, and he knew who my dad was. He was a little younger than my dad, about 10 years younger. But I remember we were talking. He said, I remember your dad. He said, what was his best year? I said 58. He went 22-14, and he said 36 decisions. He said, was there anybody else in that pitching staff? So he was, he was just a workhorse. I mean, he literally didn't miss a start for 15 years. Again, 3,611 innings, won both games of a doubleheader against the Cubs, and, had a great year in 58, 59, had a terrible year. And then 1960, as you alluded, he helped the Pirates win the pennant and went on to win the World Series in 1960 against the Yankees, and was named National League Comeback Player of the Year. And then after baseball, he was Allegheny County Controller for 2 terms. And then after that, he was in the insurance brokerage business for about 25, 26 years. But he was a great dad. Lost him in 2019 at the age of 88. He died in his sleep in his bed, which is how all of us want to go. But he was my best friend. He was my role model. He was absolutely hilarious, but he was also, he was a very serious guy, hardworking guy. But I never, ever denied a fan an autograph. Had a lot of mail sent to his house, and I remember when we were little, when he was a little bit closer to the retirement of his baseball career, we would be out eating, and somebody would come to the table. Never failed to sign an autograph. Just the nicest guy, the most humble man I've ever met. You literally could be at a table with him for 2 hours, and if you didn't know who he was, baseball would never come up. And just a really, really great guy, and sorely missed. But I'm very blessed to have had him for 55 years.
A guy who pitched all those games and all those innings and pitched in back-to-back games in a doubleheader. I'm guessing if he were still with us, he would laugh at what pitchers do today, right? You got to pull a guy after, can't pitch more than 100, can't throw more than 100 pitches, don't want to go past much more than 5 or 6 innings. That must have been something that would have driven him nuts.
I think it drives all the old timers nuts, to be honest with you. I think that, I'm an LSU guy. Obviously, when Paul Skeens came up, had some really, really great starts. And I understand that, for kids' confidence and everything else. But I remember them pulling out of, it might have been like his second or third game. They pulled him out after 5 innings. He'd thrown like 89 pitches. He'd struck out 9 guys and had like a one hitter going. They pulled him out. And when you take a look at it, I mean, this is a kid in the College World Series in 2023, pitched a 9-inning game against Wake Forest. And his last pitch came in at 104 miles an hour. And, you take a look at this, and it's just, they're a little bit pampered. And that's kind of the system that you have anymore. This is the nature of the sport now.
Also, I want you to mention your mom, because when I got to see you for a moment during the U.S. Open last year, you had said that your mom, God bless her, was volunteering out there. Talk about her chipping in to help.
Yeah, 89 years old at that time, and gets a lot of help from my sister. She's 90 years old now and still sharp as hell. Physically, she uses a walker. But, I think that every single guy that you will ever interview will talk about, my dad was my role model, this, that, and the other, but my mom was the person that drove me around all these golf tournaments. And that literally is the case. I grew up at a time where, one person worked, and then the other, the mother usually was the person that really took care of the family and held things together and cooked meals. But my mother took me to all these junior golf tournaments all over the place. And I think, again, if you sit there and you think about anybody that's ever played either on the Korn Ferry, PGA Tour, and later on the PGA Tour champions, the first person they would really thank would be their mom, because she's the one that's doing the windshield time, running you around all these junior golf tournaments, and she was no exception to that.
So I want to get your thoughts on last year's U.S. Open, since we're on that topic. You're a member there at Oakmont. I know we had a lot of rain that week.
Yeah.
But give me your thoughts. How did you feel about how the tournament went and how the course played?
Well, the golf course was very difficult. When you go and you take a look at it, and I've been very blessed. I've been a member of Oakmont now since 1972, so for 54 years. The best U.S. Open that we've had in terms of what the golf course really does is 2007. When Dustin Johnson, when Angel Cabrera won, we had about 1/8 of an inch of rain on Wednesday night before the tournament. Then it was dry, and 5 over par won the golf tournament. So this past year, you had one guy that broke par. JJ Spawn played great coming down the stretch. He shot 1 under par. Golf course could not have played easier. These guys hit the ball so long, they launch it so high. The rough was obviously very, very thick, but if you're leading a golf tournament, you're not visiting the rough too much. So I think the golf course held up magnificently, considering all the rain that we had during the course of the week. The greens were soft, they were still fast, they were very receptive. The only thing that I would say is when you go and you take a look at it, and I go back, another LSU boy, Sam Burns, on the 15th hole, I still, to the life of me, I have no idea why they made him play that ball out of casual water. I think the USGA, God love them, they wanted to get the tournament in. They had all the people there. They did not want to go to Monday. But it's the golf course is a little bit questionable when we came back after that rain delay late in the afternoon on Sunday. But overall, I think it was a great tournament. It brought, hundreds of millions of dollars into the Pittsburgh community. And, Oakmont, the old girl, obviously bared her teeth. And it was a great tournament. And you got a great champion, quality guy. And, it was a great tournament coming down the stretch. Very exciting.
Bob, for our folks outside of Western Pennsylvania, or even for those that are there who have never been to the golf course, it's got a unique feature like the Pennsylvania Turnpike running right through the middle of it. The rough at the tournament was over ankle deep. We all know about the speeds of the greens. Those are infamous. The par 3 eighth hole played roughly 300 yards during the U.S. Open. The practice green there sits on the back of the ninth green. Talk about some of the nuances of the course and what it's like to put a peg in the ground there.
Well, the cool thing is this, you can sit there, and as a good player, you can go out there and you can play a round of golf from all the way back, and you'll shoot the highest round you shoot all year. But you'll finish the 18th hole with the same ball you started. That's the unique thing about Oakmont. You can go to TPC Stadium, which is a magnificent golf course, and if you're not hitting the ball well, you can go out there, you can lose 3 to 6 golf balls and shoot, 82, 83. A good player can go out to Oakmont from all the way back and they'll shoot 77 or 78 and they'll hole out on the 18th green with the same ball they started. You literally don't lose a ball. You don't suffer a penalty shot. You just hit it a lot. Oakmont is renowned, obviously, for the extreme bunkering. There's 185 bunkers on the golf course. They're all very deep, very punishing. And the golf course is very narrow. You play in the PGA Tour and a lot of these other major championships, especially Augusta, which we're going to see here in about 8 or 9 days, is that, the fairways are 40 yards wide, 35 to 40 yards wide. The fairways at Oakmont are anywhere between 28 and 30 yards wide. Very, very narrow, very punishing off the edges of the fairways. And a lot of the greens will actually run away from you. So it is a very, very, the other thing too with Oakmont is that nothing looks contrived. I mean, the green complexes just look like they fall in with the shape of the land and the slope that the hole is running through. The greens can be very, very difficult. I know for a fact that when we play in the SWAT, which is the renowned men's game that we've been playing since about 1905, we have our SWAT party in the fall. It's usually the first Saturday in October where you've got low humidity, you've got cool nights. The greens have already been aerified back in August. So the superintendents always put the hammer down. And I can tell you, this past year for the SWAT party, the greens rolled 18 on the stem.
Oh my goodness.
18. It literally is like putting on a frictionless surface. They get very firm, they get very fast, and it's the most challenging golf course I have ever seen. It's infinitely fair. It's all right out there in front of you, but it's like the best punch in the mouth you'll ever receive. And it's just, you come off the golf course and it has beaten the living hell out of you, but you had a ball. And I think part and parcel of that is you don't lose the golf ball. I think that Tillinghast said that the most frustrating thing, or maybe it might have been Mackenzie, most frustrating thing about the game of golf is a lost ball. And you just don't lose any balls out there. And it's so unique. Every hole on Oakmont is unique to Oakmont, and every hole out there is unique unto itself. So there's no holes out there. Like, look, Inverness is a wonderful golf course, Donald Ross. But you play Inverness, and there's a number of the holes out there that look very similar to a hole you might have played 4 holes ago. Oakmont's nothing like that. Oakmont, every single hole is unique unto itself. And, you talk about the church pews, and it basically it's a bunker that's been copied around the world, but it's unique to Oakmont because of its size and its scope, and the fact that it runs the course of a long par 4. The third hole, and a long par 5, the fifth hole, or the long par 4, the third hole, and the long par 5 fifth, and so the long par 5 fourth. So they basically back to back come into play on those 2 great holes, and they're 75, 80 yards long, and they get narrow, they get wide. It's just a unique golf course where they just don't make them like this anymore.
So I got to ask you, what's the best round you've ever shot out there?
Well, now I have not played all the way back since it has been revamped. I mean, I'm an old guy. I'm 62 now. So I play the men's tees. My handicap is still a plus 3.3. I can't get the damn thing to go up. My low round from the men's tees, I've shot 64 3 times. And from the championship tees, the last time I ventured back there was probably like around 2005, 2006, before it was like lengthened for the U.S. Open in 7 and 16 and then 25. My low round from all the way back is 66.
Okay. Very
It's been
good.
a while since I've been back there. I can tell you that right now. Thankfully.
Bob, you were playing out on tour in 1994 when the U.S. Open was held at Oakmont. That was the year that Mr. Palmer played his final
I was
U.S.
there.
Open. Yeah, I know. You qualified to get in, right? You went through. Weren't you medalist at Sunny Hannah Country Club?
Was medalist at Sunny Hannah. I shot 66, 68, and I played my Monday practice round with Arnold. So that was something. I was playing in Cleveland at that time. I was playing on the Corn Ferry Tour, and I played in Cleveland. I played pretty well, made the cut, had a weekend with something to do, and then I qualified for the U.S. Open prior to going to Cleveland and came in. And that time, my wife, I had been married about a year, and we were staying with my parents. She and I lived down in Jupiter, and so my dad, I came in on Sunday, says, "Well, what's the plan?" I just said, "Well, it's going to be very hot." And I said, "Obviously, I know the golf course like the back of my hand. I don't need to have a bunch of practice rounds." I said, "I'm just going to go out on Monday." And I said, "I'm going to pick up my courtesy car and I'm going to practice for a couple hours." And, my dad, obviously very, very very, very prideful, very proud of his son. And so he went out with me. And so, we went out there, obviously members, and I was the only player in the first floor men's locker room. The men's locker room at Oakmont, there's 2 floors. I was the only one using the first floor locker room because when we have major championships, all the players are on the second floor. And so we went out there, picked up the courtesy vehicle, and then it was probably about 1:00 in the afternoon, and I was just down hitting balls, and I hear this voice, "Bobby, friend." I turn around, it was Arnold Palmer. And so Arnold got, he and my dad got caught up, basically the same age, same era. And I had known Arnold for a number of years, but, we'd never played together. And so we were there, and he came up and he gave me a hug, gave me a good handshake, congratulated me on being there. And he said, "Well, what are you doing this afternoon?" I said, "Well, I'm just going to, practice a little bit." And Arnold said, "Well," he said, "I'm getting ready to go off with Goidos and Calcavecchi. You want to join us?" And so obviously Arnold Palmer asked you to play a round of golf. You're not going to turn that down. I said, "Sure." I said, "But I might only play 9 holes." He said, "That's great." And obviously we went up there and I played 9 holes, had a little skins game. And, it was great. You sit there. And then the funny thing was, that was his last U.S. Open. And so I was paired that week with Doug Martin and Michael Allen. And so on Friday in the afternoon, I played early, late. And so we're making the turn on Friday afternoon. Arnold had played late early. And we get to the 10th tee about ready to go. And Arnold is in the middle of the 18th fairway playing his last hole ever in the U.S. Open. And so we just stood there and we probably waited about 15 minutes until he finished. And so I got to watch with Doug Martin and Michael Allen. We got to watch Arnold Palmer finish the 18th hole. He missed the cut, but we got to watch him finish the 18th hole, his last U.S. Open ever. So it was a magical week. The opportunity to be with the king. He was such a gracious man, a real man's man. But, everybody talks about Arnold. He's like this ambassador of golf, and he is. He made the game what it is today. He made the purses today what they are. But, a lot of people, what gets lost in the shuffle is that this is a guy that won 62 times on the PGA Tour. 62 times on the PGA Tour and 7 major championships. What gets lost in the shuffle is what a great, dominant player of the game he was. And he was a really, really special guy. We're very proud that Western Pennsylvania declares, this is Arnold Palmer country, and we're very proud of our native son.
Let's take that Western Pennsylvania piece a little bit further, because, Bob, when people are looking at golf destinations, you're putting together a buddy's trip and you start to think about where you want to go and where there's a lot of great golf. Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania, to me, gets the short end of the deal on stuff like that. I don't think people outside of the area know about all the great golf that's in and around the western part of the state. I mean, people obviously know about Oakmont. They know about Latrobe Country Club because of Mr. Palmer. Maybe they know Laurel Valley because of Mr. Palmer as well. But there's a lot of great golf in and around the city and that part of the state. Talk about some of your favorite places that you enjoy going to play.
Well, obviously, going up to Latrobe you sit there and they're in the process now of doing this Arnie's Army, and they're going to basically replicate his office. I've been through his office. I've been through his storage area where he's got tens of thousands of golf clubs. So Latrobe is very, very special. Obviously, Laurel Valley is magnificent. Fox Chapel Golf Club, it's a Seth Rayner 1926, absolutely brilliant. They've gone in there and they've renovated it. They've brought it back to its original design. The Pittsburgh Field Club, where they played the 1937 PGA Championship, Denny Shute won there. Again, it's renowned for having an elevator on the golf course, which takes you from the 17th green all the way up to the 18th tee. I think that back in the 20s, 30s, that number of people, the 18th hole was a par 4 up a very steep hill. I think they had a couple of members assume room temperature that one particular summer, and so they decided to make it into a par 3. So the Pittsburgh Field Club actually has an elevator, about a 4-story elevator that takes you from the 17th green up to the 18th tee. You've got to take a look at Sunny Hannah Country Club, which is a Tillinghast, where they play the Sunny Hannah Amateur, which is one of the 7 premier amateur tournaments in the country. Then you go a little bit north and you've got the Cockwa Club up in Erie. It's a Donald Ross golf course. So there's a lot of really, really great golf courses here in Western Pennsylvania. Obviously, Oakmont is the most renowned, but you've got a lot of these really good hidden gems, right around Oakmont. The 4 clubs that are really, really spectacular. You've got Oakmont, you've got the Pittsburgh Field Club, Fox Chapel Golf Club, and Longview Club. And it's in probably about a 8-mile radius. You've got these 4 magnificent clubs that you just don't find that anywhere else in the United States.
And we'll be right back. Golf season is back. We've got the Masters coming up, and the U.S. Open is out there on the horizon. And Sunday Swagger just made sure you're going to be ready. Their new spring collection just dropped. They've got 60 bold, performance-driven styles for men, women, and youth. And if all of that isn't enough, well, they just linked up with Pennzoil and Team Penske for a race-inspired collection that brings serious trackside energy to the fairways. With styles for men, women, and youth, you're guaranteed to turn heads and spark conversation when you wear Sunday Swagger. Visit SundaySwagger.com, join the Sunday Club for exclusive drops and member benefits, and folks, Sunday Swagger is going to give you what? Polos with personality. Again, check them out online, SundaySwagger.com. And folks, Squares Golf, best golf shoes on the planet by far. It's not a gimmick, it's not marketing, it's science. Don't take my word for it. Let's hear from 6-time major champion Sir Nick Faldo.
So Nick here. What if there was a golf shoe embraced by hundreds of thousands of golfers, celebrated for its stability, comfort, and distance? What if this shoe earned the title of most technologically advanced golf shoe by Sports Illustrated? And what if the company behind that shoe spent the last year perfecting a brand new category of golf footwear? Well, the what if is here. Introducing the all-new Pro S2 LT by Squares, a new class all of its own, the perfect blend of lightweight comfort and stable performance. You'll notice the difference. Change your shoes, change your game. Squares.
Now back to the show. I want to switch gears a little bit, Bob, and we kind of go back to when we started this conversation about how you outworked people and what a grinder you were and that sort of thing. But when you look at the PGA Tour now, we've heard new Commissioner Brian Rolapp talking about reducing the number of tour cards down from 125 to 100. He's proposing fewer tournaments so they don't compete with football late in the summer and the fall and early on in the year in January, February. Perhaps having more signature events that have smaller fields and guaranteed payouts. And at a time when our wonderful PGA and LPGA professionals are doing a great job growing the game, Bob, I kind of feel like the tour is kind of lopping things off for the number of players that can get out to play at the very top level. They're going to offer fewer opportunities for that, which doesn't feel like growing the game to me.
Well, so number one, it's a very good point. Rolapp knows what he's doing. He's a businessman, obviously NFL for a number of years. At the end of the day, Chris, this like any sport is built upon star power. If the stars don't come to your tournament, your draw is going to be down, your television is going to be down. So they have to facilitate it for the stars. They've got to get these guys playing in these tournaments. And so I had this conversation with Doug Bell. I worked with Doug Bell when I did a little Sirius XM, and Doug interviewed me last week talking about this too. And my answer actually surprised him. I said, I don't have a problem with the smaller fields, provided, and this is a big proviso, the Korn Ferry Tour purses are where they can be to where a player can actually make a very good living playing. And that's where they are now. So when I go and I take a look at these, at the possibility of cutting these fields down and lessening the field, the cream is still going to come to the top. That's the one thing with the game of golf. It's the purest form of sport. Yes, these players are, they make money off of their endorsement contracts, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, you only get offered that if you've been a good player and a steady performer for a long period of time. I think that the Korn Ferry Tour is magnificent. But most importantly, I remember when I won out there, my first place check was for $20,000. And now you're looking at the purses where the first place is $150,000 to $180,000. So you have the purses, you have the venue, you have the jumping board to get to the PGA Tour if you play well. It goes back to an old story when in the 70s where I caddied in the 78 PGA Championship at Oakmont. I caddied for a club professional, and he ended up missing the cut. He was a nice man. His name was John Bonella, but he knew Tom Watson, and we played our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practice rounds with Tom Watson and Andy North. That's what really gave me the impetus to really play the game of golf. I was inside with Watson, number one player in the world, 28 years old at the time. I was 14. And it just blew me away as the controlled violence of his golf swing and how he hit it. That really got me turned on to the game. But back in 1978, players were still paying for range balls at PGA Tour and PGA events.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My guy they came in, the golf balls, they're in little bags. And my guy would say, go get me three bags of balls. He gave me $6. And I would go to where the golf balls were staged on the range at Oakmont. And I would give them $6. They'd give me 3 bags of balls. So this all goes back to the great Jim Colbert story about Jack Nicklaus. So they're having these player meetings. And Nicklaus never goes to the player meeting. Now he would go to like the big overview things like you would call now like the Players Club, where they've got the big general meeting for the year. He would go to that stuff, but the regular like players meetings, Nicklaus never went to that. And so basically these are really just, I guess people they're just wine fests. And so Colbert's there and he's listening to all these guys whining about, they don't have any courtesy cars, they don't have to pay for range balls, this, that, and the other. And Colbert stood up and he said, "Do you guys notice that Jack Nicklaus never comes to these?" And they're like, yeah, why is that? He said, because he gets everything he wants because he's beating the hell out of all of us. And he said, the moral of the story is if you want more, play better. And so at the end of the day, if you've got a young guy coming up through the ranks, as long as they have a place that they can play where they can actually make a living, provided they're playing well, I'm okay with the shorter fields. I'm okay with the shorter access because at the end of the day, what drives the television rating, what drives the large gallery is the star power. People would probably come out to see me. I was a journeyman. I wear that tag proudly. I mean, my old manager, Bud Martin, who was, managed me. I've known Bud since we were 13 years old. But he told my son, which I was perfectly, he said, "I don't want to offend your dad." He said, "But I'm going to tell you." He said, "Your father was a great amateur, and had your father, stayed amateur," he said, "your father probably made $25 million in financial service and been a member of 10 clubs, but your father wanted to play on the PGA Tour." And he said, he had great talent for the amateur level. He said, but the PGA Tour level was completely different. He said, your father took a knife to a gunfight when it comes to PGA Tour talent. He said, but I tell you what your father had. Your father had a burning desire, and nobody, and I mean nobody, outworked your father. So, people didn't come out there to follow Bob Friend unless they wanted to see, hey, look, Bob Friend, his dad used to pitch for the Pirates. Let's watch him play a few holes. Now, I had opportunities to win some golf tournaments, this, that, and the other, but I wasn't the draw, and that's okay. But the big thing is going to be, as long as the purses on the Korn Ferry Tour allow players to make a living as they learn and they earn, I'm okay with the shorter field at this particular time.
Let's switch gears just a little bit. And I talked with Eric Johnson about this in the first segment. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it as well. Obviously, the big news right now in the world of golf is Tiger and the latest transgressions and the issues that he's having. Your thoughts on what you think about what's going on with him, and where do you think this goes from here?
Well, as you are probably aware, but some of your listeners might not be aware, I'm the answer to a trivia question. Who played with Tiger Woods in his first PGA Tour event? And that was me in 1992. I was paired with him on Thursday and Friday of the LA Open when he was a 16-year-old U.S. Junior Amateur champion. Look, Tiger has been through so many surgeries, and there is no doubt in my mind that he has been probably overprescribed, and then he's probably overprescribed himself with pain meds. I have not. I'm very blessed. I'm kind of built like my dad. I never had any physical injuries that would preclude me from taking painkillers like that. I know that they're very addictive, and it's really, really sad because what he is doing is basically is tarnishing his image. The TGL just started. He's part and parcel to this remake of the PGA Tour, and then this happened. So I feel sorry for his addiction. I don't feel sorry for him getting behind the wheel when he was impaired. It's funny you're talking. I listened to the last portion of, you and EJ's discussion. Years ago I played a casual round with Mario Lemieux, and we were out playing, and we were talking, and he was just talking about the fact that there's two other businessmen here, Kevin McClatchy, who used to own the Pirates, and a guy by the name of Tom Grealish, who started Henderson Brothers Insurance. They're great friends. They do a lot of charity outings, all this sort of stuff, very, very close. And Mario was telling the story about where Tom, Kevin, and himself had purchased a brand new Cadillac Escalade. They hired a retired police officer and gave him a cell phone. They put him on benefits. They paid him a salary. And his job was whenever any one of them called, he would come and he'd pick them up. And I'd say, okay, wait, Escalade, salary, benefits. I said, that's got to be expensive. And Mario quickly shot back. He said, no. He said, what's expensive is me at 2:00 in the morning in an orange jumpsuit. He said, that's expensive. So again, I know that driving is an American thing. We love our freedom. We don't like public transportation unless it's a necessity. We don't like being driven around. But at the end of the day, as I stated, I feel terrible for his addiction. I really do. I sympathize with him. I think it's a horrible thing that he's battling. But dude, just call somebody, get a friend, get a driver. Hey man, I'm feeling a little bit loopy here. Can you come and pick me up? I can tell you what happened. And he probably, wherever he was, and I know Jupiter Island. I lived down there. I used to ride my bike up Jupiter Island. Very narrow road. It's a very well patrolled road. He was probably, you know what? I'm fine. It's going to take me 7 minutes to get home. I'm okay. And then obviously, you sit there and for some reason, driving impaired, he felt that he could pass this guy, which is ludicrous in the first place when you're driving impaired. So I feel bad for his addiction issues, but I don't feel bad that he got a DUI, and hopefully it sounds like he's on his way to getting some more help. But really, really stupid to drive impaired, and literally could have had a life-changing event, not just for himself, but for anybody else he could have hit, possibly injured or killed.
Yeah, and that's where I have a problem right there.
I have a big problem. Yep.
Yeah, with you. Bob, looking back over your time at playing at such a high level, whether it was in high school, college, or obviously out on tour, was there a best piece of advice that someone gave you, whether it was about your swing or your mental approach or course management, whatever it was, something that always stuck with you?
Yeah, I can tell you the guys on tour, Korn Ferry, Champions, PGA Tour, they all hit it great. And they all have great golf swings. Now, what you're seeing now, when I came up, you had guys with idiosyncratic golf swings. Lee Torino, Lanny Watkins, Vance Hefner, Lance Tenbrock, all these guys, these characters, Craig Stadler. I think a lot of that was part and parcel of the fact that most of us grew up playing our father's equipment, which was too heavy. And that's how you got into these idiosyncratic swings, like, maybe a Miller Barber. The golf swings now, and the instruction is so good with guys like EJ and high-speed cameras and TrackMan, Flight Scope, all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, the best piece of advice that I had was really just believe in yourself. That's the number one thing. I remember reading something that Ben Crenshaw wrote years ago. He said, talent gets you 10% of the way, your hard work is going to get you the other 90%. In my opinion, I think it's much more important mentally at that particular stage. That's what separates the wheat from the chaff, is the mental aspect, being in control of your emotions, having your thoughts organized on the golf course. Amateurs out there feel the same things that we do. I get on the first tee of a PGA Tour event, I am nervous. But here's the thing. Here's the difference. When the nervousness comes, I welcome it as an old friend. I don't give it any power. I'm like, there it is. Okay, great. And I know for a fact that as soon as that first tee shot is over, the nervousness is going to go away. Amateurs get nervous and they thrive on it. It eats at them. They're nervous. They think everybody's watching them. They're afraid to make a mistake, and it stays with them for hole after hole after hole. So I think that the most important thing is when you get nervous, and we all do, take some deep breaths, follow your routine, but most importantly is to believe in yourself. And I know that as you know, as upstanding people as we are, our parents always teach us to be humble. But I know that Rotello, and I worked with Rotello starting in 1992. One of the things that he always told me was, he said, you have to be super cocky internally. He said, I'm not talking you're walking around beating your chest, your nose is up in the air, your chin is up in the air. I'm talking inside. You have to be telling yourself, I am the best, I am the best, I am the best, and nobody can play with me internally. So I think that is probably the most important advice I got, was to be super cocky internally and to believe in myself. And that makes the difference really in anything.
Bob, just a couple more before I let you go. With respect to the fundamentals of the game, what do we absolutely have to get right if we're going to have any chance to be a good player?
Well, here it is. Whether you're a Tiger Woods or whether you're a bear in the woods, the fundamentals of golf are these four things: grip, posture, ball position, alignment. Period. When the one that gets overlooked the most is probably posture. So if your listeners can understand this, so they've all played different sports: second base, linebacker, guarding somebody in basketball. An athletic stance is an athletic stance is an athletic stance. So if you're gonna get ready to field a ground ball at second base, all right, your back is erect, the weight's on the balls of your feet, your rear end is up and out, and there's a slight flex in your knees. That's golf posture. Okay, you have to have the weight on the balls of your feet. You have to have your butt up and out, because one of the physical forces that occurs in the golf swing is angular motion. Your angular motion, when you start the golf swing down from the top of the golf swing, your weight goes out towards your toes. If you've got weight on your heels, it's going to go out towards your toes, and you're going to hit hosel rockets. The butt has to be up and out, because that is a counterbalance to the angular motion that's going to occur in every single golf swing. The width of your stance, if your feet are too wide, your lower body can't work. If your feet are too narrow, it won't support lateral motion that you have in the golf swing. So the good standard, again, it's like an athletic stance. The instep of your feet need to be as wide as your hip socket. So if you take your weight on the balls of your feet, your back is erect, your butt's up and out, and your stance is your feet are as wide as your hip sockets. If you look at that, that is basically every single stance in any sport that requires a ball. Guarding somebody in basketball, playing second base, wrestling, playing linebacker. Athleticism is athleticism. And then grip, you've got to make sure that when you grip that golf club with your left hand, that you can see 2 to 3 knuckles on your left hand, and the V goes towards your right shoulder, and the right hand mirrors that. One of the things that also gets overlooked is you've got to hold on to the club softly. A soft muscle is a quick muscle, is a responsive muscle. Most amateurs grip the club way too hard, like they're gonna grip an axe chopping wood. You have to, if it's on from a scale from 1 to 10, you've got to be holding that club at about a 3 or a 4. And then your alignment, just think about the train tracks. The ball's on the outward track. Your really, the most important part is your thighs and your shoulders parallel to that line. And then your ball position is going to really depend upon your eye dominance, how you look at the golf ball in relationship to your stance. But my rules with ball position are your wedges and your 9-iron in the middle of your stance, your 8-iron through your 5 off your left chest logo, your 4 through your fairway metals off your left armpit, and your driver off your inside of your left heel. This is because you're rotating on an axis, and the length of the club dictates there's a certain amount of space required for that club head to be able to return back to square at the bottom of the arc. But that really is it. I mean, those are the fundamentals. And then once you get the fundamentals right, do your very best to make an athletic golf swing and hit it hard. It's going to land somewhere.
Indeed it is. I got to ask you about the Pirates before I let you go. A lot of people have gotten on the train a little bit. People starting to get a little excited. They spent a little money, brought in a couple of free agents in Ed O'Hearn and Marcelo Zuna, traded for Brandon Lau. Connor Griffin's the number one prospect in baseball. Obviously, Paul Skeens, not his fault in the opening game. I blame that all on Cruz.
Yep.
But gotten off to a slow start, but we're only 4 games in. How do you feel about this year's team?
Well, so Hardy Hanna, who is the chairman, CEO and chairman of Howard Hanna, the real estate company for which I work, the largest family-owned real estate company in the United States, he does a poll every year. So my poll is he said, how many wins will the Pirates have? And your tiebreaker is how many wins will Paul Skeens have? So my wins this year, I've got them winning 86 games. I've got Paul Skeens winning 16 games. Look, the last time I looked, they were beating the Reds tonight. Pirates have not played a home game yet. I mean, they left spring training and they went to New York, and now they're in Cincinnati. And, we've got Baltimore here for the home opening weekend. So the Pirates have yet to play a home game. So it's a pretty tough start. I mean, the Reds obviously last year edged out the Mets, for a playoff spot last year. But the Mets with that great payroll, and the Reds obviously last year were a playoff team. I love the fact that they went out and they got some bats. Brandon Lau looks fantastic. O'Neal Cruz is a monstrous disappointment. I mean, you sit there and you talk to somebody like yourself. Obviously I've played at the highest level, but when I talk to you, you have a high golf IQ. Okay. I mean, I can talk to you and, we can talk at various levels about the game of golf. It doesn't seem like O'Neal Cruz has a baseball IQ at all. I mean, what he did last week in that opening game was, I mean, that's like 13er league. So again, I don't blame that on Skeens. I'm glad Kelly pulled him out of the game when he did. But I think with Ozuna, I think with Brandon Lau, Jared Triola they've got some good, solid infielding. Henry Davis behind the plate got that rocket arm, seems to be hitting the ball a little bit better. I'm very optimistic about this year, and I can't wait for the home opener to start here in Pittsburgh against the Orioles.
Before I let you go, I also got to get an update on the family. How's everyone doing?
Everybody's doing great. My oldest, Charlie's 30 years old. He works for PricewaterhouseCoopers. He got an MBA from CMU about a year ago, and he's doing great. My daughter, Libby's 28. She's living in New York City. She works for McGraw-Hill Publishing. And then my youngest, Andrew, who's absolutely a beast on the golf course. Beautiful golf swing, more talent in his left little finger than I had in my entire body. Hits it about 85 yards past me with effortless power. He's actually working for Howard Hanna Insurance. So Howard Hanna, as I stated, is the largest family-owned real estate company in the United States. We own our own mortgage company. We own our own title and settlement company. And we also own our own insurance brokerage. So Andrew is working there selling property and casualty, and he also is licensed in individual lines. So everybody's great. Like I said, my mom's 90 years old, still going strong, sharp as hell. And everybody's good, Chris.
Bob, before I let you go, remind our listeners, how can they stay up to date with all the great things they're out there doing? Plus, if they're moving anywhere near Western Pennsylvania, how can they get in touch with the great Bob Friend?
All right. Well, I believe my Instagram is HH Real Estate MGR. And that's on Instagram. And then they can follow me on Facebook. They can follow me on Instagram, follow me on LinkedIn. And look, I mean, Howard Hanna, to get a hold of me, cell numbers 412-576-3444. Very simple. Bob Friend at howardhanna.com. If you list it, we will sell it. And we can actually send people all over the world because we're members of leading real estate companies in the world. We have offices in 15 states, over 16,000 agents. And it's like I said, it's the largest family-owned real estate company in the United States. It's a wonderful, wonderful family-owned company.
Bob, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. Like I say, you're one of the all-time greats here and a guy that I'm so grateful for. 22 times you've been a part of this show. Like I say, going all the way back to season number 1. You have made a huge difference in what this show started out to be and what it's grown into. And I can't thank you enough for your influence, your time, and all the wonderful stories that you have shared with the audience over the years.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. It's always an honor to be on your show. It's an honor to be asked. Again, you're the best guy in radio, and I'm just honored to be on your show. And my pick for the Masters is Bryson DeChambeau.
You're going with Bryson, too. You
I'm
and E
Bryson.
both.
Going with Bryson, yeah. And my dark horse, Russell Henley.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Yeah, way downtown with the Russell Henley.
That's correct. That's it. So Bryson and Russell Henley's the dark horse.
All right. We'll see how you do. Bob, take care, my friend. You're the best. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
God bless, Chris. Thank you.
See you, Bob.
Bye, bud.
That is the great Bob Friend Jr., folks. And you want to talk about just two outstanding human beings who have made a huge difference in the game of golf, in instruction, in tour play, and then in this show, Eric Johnson, Bob Friend. Don't come any better than those two guys. And like Eric said, and we talked about a lot with the time with Bob, I mean, just one of the all-time great grinders. The guy just outworked everybody as much as he could and got every ounce that he could out of his talent, out of his game, and just somebody that you want to emulate, right? You want to be that guy, right? You want to be the guy that says, you know what, you're not going to outwork me. You may have more talent than me, you may have more whatever, but you're not going to outwork me. Like he said, if he knew you were going to be on the tee at 6 a.m., he was going to be there at 5. I have a huge amount of respect for how much effort and time and practice and everything else that Bob put into his game and then what he got out of it. I mean, look, he finished second in the Canadian Open. He won the Panama Open. He had 27 top 10 finishes out on the PGA Tour. A guy who just worked his butt off. And I have, like I say, so much respect for him. And I can't thank him enough for everything that he's meant to me in the show over the years. And then obviously his father, Bob Friend, for what he did for the Pirates and winning that 60 World Series and everything that he meant to the city. And a guy, like he said, like Mr. Palmer, always signed for you, always had time for you. And that's who Bob Friend has been to me and to this show. So thank you to Bobby. Thank you to E for being a part of the show. They are just two of my all-time favorite people on the planet, let alone anything else. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again, like I say, to Eric Johnson and Bob Friend Jr. for being a part of this week's show. Scheduled to join me next time are, we keep our streak of top instructors in the game coming for you with Golf Magazine Top 100 alumni instructor and our resident director of instruction, Tom Patry, will be here. The confidence doctor, Dr. Bob Winters, will be back, as will our nutrition expert, the bikini chef, Susan Irby, will be back. She's so fantastic. You're really going to enjoy that segment. She's just wonderful. And I hope you'll be back here to enjoy it with us. I want to thank our friends again, as always, over at Trib Live for being such wonderful partners in hosting this show on their site. For the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond, including your favorite sports, go to triblive.com. You can find the show by clicking on the Sports Section tab, and right there on the homepage of the Sports Section, you're going to see the most recent episode. Or you can type in podcast.triblive.com, and many of the most recent episodes are there for you as well. But as you know, you can find us pretty much anywhere you get your podcast content. We're out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and golfnewsnet.com. But as always, like I say each and every week, the biggest thanks go out to each and every one of you for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts. A huge dose of vitamin G for each and every one of you. I'm so grateful that you continue to make Next on the Tee a part of your weekly golf content. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.